Present. Chair Lee.
Here.
Chair Lee present. You have a quorum.
A quorum being present, we shall proceed. Give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves, and we'll start with Representative Smith.
Okay, thank you, Representative Smith. I'm the Assistant Leader of the House Republicans and represent District 62.
Dick Campbell, represent House District 19, Orange and Holden.
Good morning. I'm Representative Bob Nutting. I represent House District number 66.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Collmore. I represent House District 68, Pittsfield, Clinton, Burnham, and Troy.
Good morning, Representative Holly Stover. I represent House District 48, including the 6 coastal towns of Boothbay Harbor, Southport, Edgecombe, Westport Island, and South Bristol.
Good morning. I'm Amy Kuhn. I represent House District 111, which is most of the town of Falmouth.
Representative Tavis Rock Hassenfuss, House District 57, Reedfield and Winthrop.
And good morning. I'm Adam Lee. I represent House District 89, which is downtown and New Auburn, and I'm also the chair of the committee. So the committee has been asked by the speaker to look into the actions of Representative Randall Hall, regarding which he entered a guilty plea in the criminal court on May 26, 2026. We have specifically been asked to make recommendations on what, if any, discipline the full Maine House of Representatives should vote to impose upon Representative Hall. In determining this, we will be guided by the Legislative Ethics Statute, Title I, Section 1014. This committee is an investigative body. However, we do not conduct court proceedings. We are not a jury. We are not judges. It is our charge to investigate the circumstances of this case and make recommendations to the full House of Representatives. Only the full House may take any action with respect to Representative Hall. Though we are not bound by the rules of a court proceeding, we will act to ensure and provide due process. Our authority comes from the Maine Constitution, which gives each House of the legislature the authority to establish our own rules and procedure. The House, having adopted Mason's manual as its primary source of parliamentary authority, we will turn to it for guidance in the proceeding. Mason's manual states in section 561.2 the following: a legislative body has the right to regulate the conduct of its members and may discipline a member as it deems appropriate. While there are several differences between this committee and a regular policy committee, in some respects we will conduct our actions similarly to such a committee. Once we have compiled a list of witnesses of whom we'd like to ask questions and a set of documents we would like to review, at our next meeting, members of this committee are free to inquire of all witnesses as to all relevant and pertinent information. We'll endeavor to determine the facts of this case and report them accurately to the full House, along with any actions we feel are warranted. Again, I want to stress that our job is not that of a criminal jury or judge. We are not here to determine guilt or innocence. We are here to provide our opinion of whether and how the House should discipline its own member, Representative Hall. We can do so unanimously, or we can submit multiple reports if we have divided opinions on what the House should do. I'm going to pause there, but before I do, I'll let you know that I have a set of suggestions of how we should proceed, both in terms of procedure for our next meeting, as well as potential witnesses and documentary exhibits we should review at the next meeting. And before I ask if there's any questions from members, I wanted to introduce the folks who are staffing our committee, or I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good morning. I am Rob Hunt. I am the clerk of the House, and I am joined today by...
Good morning. I'm Michelle Dunphy, the Assistant Clerk of the House.
And we're being staffed today by the Journal Clerk of the House, Justin Davis.
Great, thank you. So does anyone have any questions at this point before we move on to our procedure and list of exhibits or witnesses for the next meeting?
Okay, Representative Collmore. So I have a couple of questions. The first question I have is around our authority under this matter. The person in question was at the time of the infraction, not a member of the 132nd. He was a candidate for the 132nd and a member of the 131st. And it's my understanding in doing some research that we cannot punish members of the 131st for breaking rules in their term under the 131st. Nor because we voted on these rules to accept them when we convened in the 132nd. So therefore, they were not in place at the time that this took place. So I'm wondering whether or not we can even do any kind of recommendation because he wasn't a member at the time. That's one question.
So I think your question is a jurisdictional one. You're asking, can we discipline Representative Hall even though he's a member of the 132nd for actions that may have occurred prior to his membership of the 132nd?
That is correct. That is what I'm asking.
Rob, do you have any instruction for us on that?
No, I don't. I guess I would mention that he was seeking office for the 132nd when these infractions happened. Yep. So I'm sorry. I would just mention that he was seeking office for the 132nd. And I believe most of the charges brought against him were after he was elected. But I did not have an answer for you. So.
Representative Hasselfuss?
Yeah. I think on that point, it also is, arguably when the facts were discovered or when the, facts creating the circumstances actually happen, right? Those are two different things. Like there's a number of things where you might not know of a past event until we're in the legislature. So I think that distinction also needs to be looked at if we're looking at that.
I think when we're looking at everything that came from ethics and what has happened through this, all of the things were discovered during the time he was running, not after he was seated, including the fact that he didn't take any payments because he had said whatever it was, because we're not talking about the merits or anything. This was all discovered and understood before he took an oath for the 132nd. While the charges didn't finalize until after he was a member of the 132nd, it started prior to that. And so that is where procedurally, I don't know if we can do something under the 132nd's House rules when he was not yet that member and those rules had not yet been established. So that is a concern of mine and a precedent that I'm worried about us setting.
I'm looking at the Masons line that we were talking about that provides us our authority, and it reads, a legislative body has the right to regulate the conduct of its members and may discipline a member as it deems appropriate. There's certainly perhaps some discussion to the merits of whether we should discipline somebody for actions prior to them being a member. Jurisdictionally, it seems quite clear that Mason says we can discipline a member of the legislative body at the time. So again, I take your point, and perhaps it's something we should be discussing as to what level of disciplinary action we take. As a jurisdictional question, though, it seems fairly clear that if you're a member of the 132nd, this body has the right to discipline them. Representative Kuhn.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that as a practical matter, it wouldn't, the committee did not move forward until there was a final decision in the courts. And so that would make the conduct unredressable if it had to be taken up before there is a judgment in the court and as opposed to waiting till now till there's a final adjudication.
And if I recall, there was a similar situation with a representative who was elected from Lincoln County, Representative Collimore, who was elected.
Can we clarify
Clarify
that
that
was
this is not this
Representative
representative.
Clinton Collimore, not Amanda Collimore, please? Thank you.
Thank you,
We will take notice of that fact.
Representative Clint Collimore. There was a similar situation where he had been elected and then charges were filed and he subsequently resigned. So that was taken into consideration after he was elected. And in this particular case, Representative Hall, as I understand it, was in the 131st and would have been serving up until December when sworn in again in the 132nd. So when I look at some of the charge that we have here in our own code of ethics, we are talking about somebody who's already in service. And then this particular action, just an observation.
I think we'd also be putting ourselves in perhaps a precedentially not good space as an ethics committee to say that we don't have, that there's a liminal space in between elections where you can take actions that may be unethical, but because the 132nd or the subsequent legislature has not taken shape, that you have no ethical responsibility and we have no authority to ethically intervene in those instances. And so I don't think that'd be a good precedent for the committee. I think it's certainly, as I said before, worthy of consideration as we deliberate on this matter, but I don't deem it a jurisdictional issue from my perspective.
Thank you.
Sorry, Representative Amanda Collmore.
Yes. It was really a challenge for me during that because his first name was Clinton and I represent Clinton, and it was, I got his mail all the time after. Anyway, I think the other thing that we have to keep in mind with, since you brought that particular case up, Representative Stover, is that he chose to resign. The House Ethics Committee was never convened to deal with that. And so we don't have a precedent set by that because we never met to discuss that, though it would have been interesting. And my argument, even though he would be on the other side, would have been the same. Do we have the jurisdiction? Because at that time he was running for that office and was not under the rules of that legislature. So it wouldn't change my argument procedurally.
Representative Hassenfuss.
I mean, I'll just say like this, it's my understanding, and please correct me where I'm wrong, Mr. Clerk, but I believe that the 131st to the 132nd had the exact same ethical standards. And so there really is no difference between what was expected of a legislator in the 131st between the 132nd. So the jurisdictional piece is sort of, getting too nitpicky in there. Additionally, I think jurisdictionally, we have the authority to create our own jurisdiction and decide whether it's something we want to do or not, as Chair Lee already mentioned. So I don't think we should get too hung up on, well, did this happen before the 132nd was sworn in or not? It was the same standards for both terms, all 4 years. And I think we just should move forward on reviewing the conduct and making a recommendation based on the conduct, not necessarily the timing of that conduct.
And to stress to everybody who may be watching at home, we don't intend to do that today. We intend to take testimony and further documents at a subsequent meeting. Are there additional questions that members have? Representative Nutting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In that same vein that Representative Amanda Collmore mentioned about establishing whether or not we are legitimately convened as a committee. I admit that my copy of Mason's manual is a few years old. I haven't bought one every year, but I have one left over from about 10 years ago. And I would point to section 799. It was on page 586 in the edition that I have. Subsection 4, and I'll read it. It's just one paragraph. Excuse me. It says powers delegated by the legislature or either house to a committee by a simple resolution cease with the adjournment sine die of the legislature. It goes on to say, however, the legislature may invest its committees with power to function after the adjournment of the session, and where each house can act separately, the joint act of both houses is not required to set up a committee that can continue to function after adjournment. End of the reading of the Masons. I like in the second half of that where the legislature can set up a committee. For instance, the property tax task force, on which I serve, was authorized by statute in an LD to conduct 6 or 8 meetings when the legislature was not in session. But the first part, the first sentence, it says powers delegated by the legislature or either house or a committee by a simple resolution cease. We are adjourned, sign and die. I believe the power of all the committees at this point has ceased. And I would think that it means that we have no power to meet, no power to recommend, no power to do anything. If someone can show me where that's not true, or where this committee is empowered to meet, I welcome that. Thank you.
Turn to our Masons expert, Clerk Hunt.
Although not the same situation in 2009, the legislature met after they adjourned sine die for the first session, but before the convening of the second regular session. So obviously not the same scenario. But under that premise, the conduct of members would in theory be irrelevant past adjourning sine die in the second regular session, because they don't have the authority to regulate the behavior of their own members, which is granted to you by the Constitution, which would trump the Masons Manual.
And also note that, again, we might be putting ourselves in a situation where we just say there's this liminal space after the session ends that everybody has carte blanche to act unethically. Hopefully, we wouldn't do that because we should be subject to our own scruples and behavioral decisions. But we as a body, I don't think should be giving up that authority the day that we adjourn sine die. Any additional questions? Representative Kuhn?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I feel pretty strongly that there's a great deal of risk in creating a free period where anything goes without accountability, and it would be really not responsible of the committee to go in that direction. But I'm just wondering at this point procedurally, how do we move past this conflict? Do you make a ruling as the chair? Do we proceed just with disagreement on it? How do we move forward?
Yeah, certainly. I'll turn to Clerk Hunt.
Might I offer that we could do some research in the interim between this and the next meeting about whether other states have precedents about meeting about issues that were before said legislature, even though they were seeking office for the 132nd. We can see, I could also ask the Attorney General to see if they could look into it as well, if that's the pleasure of the committee.
Representative Kuhn?
Thank you. I had one other question. The question was whether we can be convened after post sine die. And we have been summoned by the speaker, and the presiding officers can call the committees to meet. I know in judiciary, we're going to meet for some judicial confirmations, and that's a valid exercise. I wonder if we could just find the basis for the presiding officer's authority to reconvene a committee.
I think also procedurally, I appreciate these arguments being surfaced right now, because I think it gives us an opportunity to say, okay, these are some things that surround this. They may be asserted by Representative Hall if there's an adverse decision against him. I would also say it's probably best for our purposes to reserve these questions as we move forward so that we can have more information when we go forward. Perhaps at the beginning of our next meeting, we can talk about the jurisdictional questions, the adjournment questions prior to delving into this. And if we maybe get some information between this meeting and the next meeting that is revelatory, I would hope that that gets circulated to the committee and maybe allow us to have conversations prior to the next meeting so that we could go into that with an understanding that is hopefully common to all of us. Representative Collmore?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The other question I have is, since we haven't met since the 130th, are we establishing committee rules today? And if we are establishing committee rules today, how do we ensure that under those committee rules that we talk about the quorum being allowed with potential virtual, because currently committee rules do not include that? Also, how do we ensure procedural votes, should there be any, can also be done through virtual means because we are not in session and our employers were not anticipating us being out at this moment. We want to ensure that the committee rules that were under that before, because we have no established rules, that we allow for that flexibility, given that we are not currently in session. And I'm sure especially our lawyers would feel that it would be easier for them to join remotely too. But I work in Orono and sometimes another representative's working from the golf course. No, I'm just kidding. And we have construction site stuff happening and real estate stuff. All of us have lives and jobs outside of this that support us so that we can do this and serve the people we represent. So I would want to ensure that we're not just carte blanche taking the general rules from the other committees because procedural votes and quorum are not met by virtual means in those.
I'll inquire to someone who has more institutional knowledge on this than I, whether in the 130th or previous ethics committee incarnations, they actually adopted a set of rules, committee rules separate from the procedural rules for the particular cases.
Well, because this is strictly a House committee, it is ultimately your decision as a committee of how you proceed, and that's part of the discussion today. I believe the last time we met, we were in session on the House floor that day, and so it was very easy to get people to, wander down the hallway. Before that, remote meetings were just not a thing. That came about in the past couple legislatures, that remote participation became an item of the legislature. So you'll be forging new ground, but that is entirely up to your purview as a committee. You are the ones who make rules and adopt them, not me. So it is entirely up to you how you wish to proceed going forward.
So I'm contemplating this because I do think there is, and I've passed policy that the judiciary actually needs to make Zoom meetings more available to particularly lawyers. So I think I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't say that would also be something I'd like to see us achieve. I know personally, particularly given that we are contemplating having witnesses at the next meeting, I personally would want to appear in person. And so I guess the question I would have is, would a hybrid option be too difficult for you all to logistically support?
I don't believe so. It's done in other committees. I will point out, though, that in order to take action, the committees, you have to be physically present. At least a majority has to be physically present. So that is something to consider.
Representative Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was my question, is because that is the precedent and what the joint committee rules have established outside of this committee, because we have not established rules. How do we ensure when, for example, we were under COVID rules, a majority was allowed on virtual means because barely anybody was in the building. I know because I was in the building taking those calls virtually from the fourth floor, actually, which is hot in the summer. I don't recommend.
It's hot in the winter too.
And so can we utilize that? And I agree that to the best of my ability, I want to be here in person. I feel we do better work in person, but I also understand the real point of the fact that we are not in session currently, and this is not something any of our employers anticipated. And personally, for me, I can't speak for other members, our campus is getting ready to welcome our brand new class of freshmen. We are getting ready to open our brand new building, and it's so really big part of it is workforce development, and I'm a workforce development manager. I kind of need to be there. So I'm trying to ensure that all of us can participate in the best of our abilities if we can't be in this building.
So I think we could deal with this perhaps later on the scheduling portion, but from my perspective, we need 5 members present for a quorum, and that would accommodate 3 members able to appear virtually. And so I think we're a small enough group that maybe we can work that out as to who the three, if they prefer to appear virtually, can do. Representative Kuhn?
Thank you. You mentioned that you had some suggestions of how to proceed, and I wonder if we could hear that because it might be helpful for us in determining the remote participation. If we're only going to have a couple of meetings, that might be easier for people to manage than if you anticipate a half a dozen, in which case that'll be real challenging for some folks.
Yeah, let me just comment real quickly to that. So I think we'll be able to assess how many meetings we'll need based on the discussions that we have of the volume of documents as well as the volume of witnesses, which will dictate essentially is what that's going to be. So I think that'll determine the number of meetings we need. So I think it is appropriate for us to figure out that scheduling and who needs to appear virtually once we're able to get through that part of the process. Representative Nutting?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no problem with going forward with this and listening to your ideas about how we move forward. I also have no problem with the clerk's office or staff researching whether or not there has been a change to Masons that might influence what this does, but I don't want my acknowledgement that we're going to go ahead and discuss the rules and look for research for our next meeting to weaken my argument that we believe that this committee is not empowered to meet.
Absolutely. And I look at it as sort of the judicial equivalent of sometimes a judge will take a motion and hold it and proceed on the remainder, but no action has been taken on the motion itself. And that's sort of how I see it. Essentially, there's a question that exists amongst this committee as to the jurisdiction of this committee. We're going to have additional research done. We will be able to determine that at our next meeting, along with the factual discussion that we have.
Thank you.
So in terms of proceeding, I think the most important thing for us to determine is what witnesses and what documents we need. You have compiled for you a set of documents that I believe are quite relevant to the decision that we're going to have to make as a committee as to whether discipline is appropriate and what type of discipline is appropriate. And so I hope everybody's had an opportunity to review those documents, at least in summary form. And I wanted to put out there the question, are there additional documents that any member feels like they need in order to make a decision in this matter? Representative Collmore.
Thank you. I would request that we also, in addition to this packet, and thank you to the clerk's office for putting this together. In addition to this packet, I would also like to see any cases that have come before the Ethics Commission of a similar stance where the similar outcome has happened and what movement the House or Senate, because I'm not just looking at this, if it's in the legislature as a whole, if any, that the body took in regards to those particular findings. Whether it was the person resigned without us having to do it, whether it was the House or Senate Ethics Committee needed to meet in order to do that, and what the minutes were from that, and et cetera, so that I can understand what precedent we're looking at.
Clerk Hall.
Are you asking about the Ethics Committee or the Ethics Commission, which is something very different?
Yes, so I'd like to see everything that the Ethics Commission has in
over
similar
there.
things over there.
Okay.
And what action, if any, based on all of that, the House or the Senate took on their findings of similar things. Because I think that it's important that we see the precedent that's set prior to us meeting.
I will reach out to the Ethics Commission.
There are additional documents. Representative Smith.
Thank you. I would just ask in addition to that, any fines that were administered in terms of that, not just findings of guilt, but any fines that were administered as well.
And just so we have an idea of the universe of information that Clerk Hunt is looking at, is that when we say similar cases, are we talking about the similar set of statutes, the clean elections laws, or are we narrowing that universe differently?
For me, it's within the clean election laws.
I asked that clarifying question because I think that universe could get rather large if he had to look beyond that. Representative Hassenfuss?
Yeah, just to clarify that further, is that just for, similar charges? With,
No, I would want all similar actions, so this isn't just, this is a charge, from what I'm reading, just on the signature part of things, though all of those would be relevant. I really want to understand in the world of clean elections, what has been done, what fines, as Representative, Smith said, have been assessed. And then after those findings and things of guilt, whether by plea or, judicial finding, is did the House or the Senate take any action? If they did, what action was taken? And what are the meeting minutes from them taking that action?
And I think this goes without saying, but I'd like Clerk Hunt and his folks to be able to work with the individual legislators to make sure he's getting what you're looking for in the interim. Any additional documents folks feel like they should be able to look at before making a decision in this case? Representative Hassenfuss?
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I believe that I think I have an email with this from way back when we were first charged with meeting, but I'm just curious what the law library has for any recommendations from this committee for reprimand, censure, or expulsion, to see if this committee has made that recommendation in the past. This is more of just a procedural, what this committee has done in other cases.
Can I clarify? How far would you like me to go back?
I think if you can just find whatever is most on point. So if somebody did something in the House and then there was a motion made to reprimand or censure, I don't think that is applicable. But if somebody did something outside of, the walls of this building, and then there was some sort of motion on that.
And when I gather that information, what is the scope of information you're looking for? Do you want a transcription of the meetings? Do you want the recommendations? Do you want the actions that were taken on the House floor?
I think just the cases, essentially. There was this fact pattern happened, and here is what the House did. And I don't believe there are a lot. So I don't think you have a huge universe. I think it's pretty limited in the amount of times that's happened.
And I might be outing myself to the degree to which I am a nerd. I've already looked at this, and I believe the library has already a compendium of that information.
Most likely.
No, Calmer.
Thank you. Can I add to that? Because I do have the cases, but what I couldn't find were the transcripts. So I would love to see, that's where the meeting minutes question and all of that comes in. I would love to see those transcripts so I could see those more, because the law library did a great job of pulling stuff together.
We along those lines, we are digitally limited. Yep. Before basically the 123rd, there aren't a lot of computer files that are accessible for that. And we really lurched into the digital age right around the 122nd, 123rd, somewhere in that area. So, and with all the computer swaps over the years, it's hard to nail that down, but we do have going back to the 124th, I know off the top of my head. Yeah.
I think there's a reality here where we as members have to accept that we can't find it and it does not exist, are also acceptable answers to receive.
We'll do our best.
Yes, Representative Stover.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Someone had mentioned, I think Representative Smith had mentioned fines, or Representative Collmore. I think in that same data set, just if it could be representative of what the convictions were of any prior member who was brought on under charges similar to these, what was the conviction data like?
That's definitely information that you'll go to the judicial branch for, and I frequently find that they don't have a very good answer to those sorts of questions, so you'll try. Does that,
I guess I will note that a lot of the ethics committee meetings have nothing to do with criminal charges.
Yep.
So you will not have
Yeah.
any sort of formal charges. A lot of them are kind of, not to mention in-house housekeeping, so.
Understood. Thank you.
okay, Representative Hassenfuss?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to see if we can kind of narrow the universe and, because I think there's a big difference between something that potentially or did violate criminal statutes versus something that is a civil violation that they may be addressing through fines or other means through a hearing, an administrative hearing. So I guess I asked the committee, are you looking for administrative hearings as well, or is just the criminal piece?
I think the Ethics Commission component of that would take care of most of the agency proceedings we're looking at, but Representative Collmore?
I would like to see it all.
All right, are we done with documents? How about witnesses? Are there any witnesses that folks would like us to invite? Bearing in mind, we don't have subpoena power, and so we're simply going to be asking them to appear, and it will be their choice whether to do so. Representative Collmore?
Thank you. I thought I remember reading that just call witnesses. I thought I saw somewhere that he had written that we had subpoena power. So we can ask the people, but they can say no.
That's accurate.
So there could be witnesses that we would want, but we can't do anything about that. And how does that impact our ability to make sound decisions?
I think that's part of the discussion that we have in deliberations, whether there's missing bits of information we have from a witness we may have wanted to discuss. We can make conclusions based on their absence or presence, but that's within our vein of making decisions on the merits of what they have to say. Go ahead.
Thank you. So a follow-up to that would be, let's say we have a list of people that we want, and then in the time that they are discussing, we realize we should have called this other person. Are we allowed to then say, at that point, I'd like to hear more from this person too? Because, like, is this the only time we can say we want to hear from people? And then, too bad if you think of somebody else later.
So it's a very good question. So I find that sometimes in the process of a hearing in the legal branch, you will find, oh, that witness said this. And so I might want to now hear from an additional witness. We have the benefit of not having to put out an exhibit or witness list like a lawyer has to. And so from my perspective, if we have additional questions that surface, we could invite additional witnesses, which would mean an extra meeting. Obviously, I think we all want to avoid having too many meetings about this. So I'd invite you to perhaps be exhaustive as to who we're asking to appear at our next meeting. Clerk Hunt.
I'll also remind you that if you do call a witness, they choose not to come, they are more than welcome to submit written testimony.
A very
Which has
important
which has happened in
exception
the past.
from the judicial world is that we can get that testimony in writing since it's not sworn and it's not subpoenaed. Yes.
So in that light, I definitely would like to have whoever the investigating person was in the Ethics Commission. I think that's important. I also would like, of course, Representative Hall should and his attorney should be invited to be here to speak however they see fit within their agreements. And I would also like to hear from whoever in the Attorney General's office did the held the case, however you say that. I'm not a lawyer.
The prosecutor.
Thank you. And then if there was a mediator in that process, I would want to also hear from them. Those are my first few. That's a really great question. The other thing that I would ask is if Representative Hall or Attorney Tardy had questions or people that they wanted to invite, how do they ensure they are included on the invite list?
So I'll comment on that. One of my proposals today was to have that as an agenda item. I don't see either Josh Tardy or Representative Hall here. I also would feel perfectly comfortable reaching out on the committee's behalf and saying, after you've heard this, you've seen what witnesses, what documents we have. Are there additional witnesses and documents that we should be in possession of? I think that's perfectly appropriate due process wise to do. So I'll take that on after we leave here today of saying, are there additional documents and exhibits you'd like and witnesses? Are there any additional witnesses folks would like to hear from? Representative Kuhn?
Thank you. Within the Ethics Commission, we had a request for the specific investigator, but we may need someone else, perhaps the director, because we're going to get a lot of materials that relate to a lot of other cases that might need to be contextualized. So if we could have someone else also from the commission, that would be great.
Yes, Representative Collmore.
I don't know how this, I've never done clean elections, so I don't know how this part works on that line, specifically somebody whose maybe focus area is the clean election side of things, so that we're not, because we're not focusing on traditionally funded candidates, though they have ethics rules they have to follow as well. This is within the curtain of clean.
Do you have a sense of what we're looking for on that, Clerk Hunt, in terms of a person?
The entire Ethics Commission is coming over. No, I'll do my best. I'll reach out to Director Wayne and.
It seems like you guys pick. Tell us who can come inform us best.
Okay.
Okay. There's one other document that I was looking for, and that is a list of potential disciplinary options for us, and having that at clear access for us would be useful, just so we know what we're actually deliberating on. Are there any, sorry, Representative Candle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In terms of the requirements of those requested, what if they don't respond? What penalties and jurisdiction do we have over that?
I'll let Clerk Hunt answer, but I think the answer is 0. Seems 0 is accurate. We have nothing other than the ability to say, please come and talk to us, and then saying this person did not come and talk to us. All right, any other additional witnesses or exhibits, understanding that my and Rob's Clerk Hunt's next steps are to write these letters to these folks, asking them to appear, attempt to get the documents that we've talked about, both in terms of the hearing itself, as well as the jurisdictional questions. Anyone else have any additional witnesses or exhibits they want to talk about? All right, so now we're to calendaring. And so before we actually look at those calendars, I'm going to let this portion of the table let us know how long they believe they need in order to do this.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, at first I got to find these people and then I got to invite them. So, it's a multi-step process. It really depends on responsiveness of the Ethics Commission. The Law Library generally has stuff ready at a moment's notice. Also, you want to give people time to prepare what they need to say, or if they want to write something. I guess we'll make it happen one way or another. If you're planning next week, I think that's a physical possibility.
Not planning next week. My brain is saying mid or late September, and I want to know if that is.
We should be able to gather
Achievable.
as much information as we possibly can.
Okay.
And as a reminder, as this information is coming in, I'm going to distribute it to you all
Yes.
as it comes in.
Absolutely.
So it's not just sort of lingering out there, and then there's this, because there's the real possibility you're about to receive a phone book's worth. Remember the old days when we had phone books? They were really thick, right? Worth of information.
Representative Caldwell.
I would just put out there, if we're looking at mid to late September, I am gone for 2 weeks, which would very relevantly put in that.
Comprise the mid and late September, or these 2 weeks?
I leave September 15th and return September 29th.
Okay.
So it's literally 2 weeks at the end of September.
Okay. So that begs the question for us, do we look at earlier in September or do we look at the first week of October? And I think I see Clerk Hunt's face is telling me the first week of October. What does his mouth say?
I am scheduled to be at the American Society of Legislative Clerks and Secretaries annual meeting in Washington DC, but I work at the behest of the committee and I will be here if you need me to be here.
Okay. Representative Palmer?
Might I suggest that we look at like the 14th of September, which is still mid-September? And that would also not conflict with our clerk's schedule, because I think you learn a lot at those. I know I learn a lot when I'm traveling for conferences, and those are important. Or we look at the second week in October.
Yes. Representative Hassan.
Just based on past experience at how legislative committees go, and sometimes we can't make all our decisions at the next scheduled meeting. I think probably earlier rather than later, in case we need another meeting, because given, in the first week of November, we definitely are not authorized to meet.
Yeah. So let me just say this right now. The ability for us to have an expedient meeting is going to be a lot on the 8 of us. Having good communication with the clerk's office to ensure that the documents that we've asked for today and the witnesses that we've sought out have been effectively contacted. So I'm looking at the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th and saying, can we do a meeting then? And so I want to give the clerk's office, of September. Can we give the clerk's office our full attention to this matter so that we've reviewed all the documents that they've provided to us on an interim basis, as well as kicked over all of the rocks that we've needed to figure out what we need in advance of the next meeting? So if we're in that 8th to the 11th, I've excluded the 7th because it's Labor Day. How are we doing?
I don't know about my other committee members here, but I would have preference to the 8th and the 9th, given that the Clinton Lions Fair is the 10th through the 12th.
That's not the cheese one, is it?
The Cheese Festival is the Sunday following that, and everybody should come. That is on the 13th.
8th and 9th?
I cannot do the 8th. The 9th works fine.
Any issue with anybody on the 9th? All right. We'll set it for the 9th. And returning to Representative Collmore's discussion earlier, is there anyone who, and this is not one of those formally enforceable things, but as a matter of courtesy, are there members who would like to appear online so that the other members are aware that they need to be here in person? Would you prefer to be online then?
I am, if that's the date we've picked, I can be here in
Great.
person on that date.
Great.
Had we picked a different date, I would have been on my cell phone.
All right. Yes.
I would only request it in the event of a pending large medical procedure in my family during that month. So I can't know exactly when that's happening.
Yeah. So it sounds like we've got at least 5 people who are going to be here in person. And so we'll certainly afford you that opportunity, Representative Smith, if necessary.
Chair Lee,
Yes.
9 a.m., 10 a.m., 1 p.m.
Does 9 a.m. work for everybody? Because that could be a long day. I just want to flag as we've given the clerk's office quite a bit to work on and several witnesses that we want to hear from. All right, so 9 a.m. 9/9/26. Representative Pacifist.
Yeah, just a question. Do we have the authority to, as documents come in, sort of change our requests and refine our requests and all that through some sort of committee communication or something?
I think that's the sort of invitation that I'm giving everybody to work well with the clerk's office. If the clerk's office says, here are the documents you requested, are these what you want? I hope you're answering those emails very promptly and very clearly giving instructions as to what you want in addition. Does that answer your question, Representative Collmore?
Thank you. And I would remind us to not do whole committee emails because of
Correct.
open access. We wouldn't want to do any of that. The other.
With one exception, Clerk Hunt can certainly send us
Right,
those
but
documents,
we-
just don't respond to those emails.
Correct, and we can't have substantive, all of that
Yeah.
beautiful stuff. The other thing I would ask as a procedural thing, how do we get our travel and expense forms?
Oh, that's a good question.
Those are available through the executive director's office.
So everybody fill those out, send them to me and I will sign them. Yes, Representative Smith.
Thank you. I'm just wondering about the questions that Representative Nutting brought up. Can we get an answer to those before the September meeting in terms of his questions and Mason's? Can we convene on that?
As I procure answers, I will send them along.
Yeah.
Um,
And again, don't reply all and have a committee discussion about those, but what we'll anticipate is that we'll be receiving the answers that Clerk Hunt is able to get in real time. Yes, Representative Nutting.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just so we're clear, any information that comes out of the clerk's office will come to the full committee, no matter who requested it, so we don't get. Yes, thank
I
you.
will email it to the entire committee and Representative Hall. He is a participant, and so he needs to be informed as well.
Representative Kuhn.
Thank you. Just looking ahead, it sounds like on the 9th, we're going to take in a lot of information. We'll probably all need to digest that. And so we would anticipate a third meeting where we would come together. Do we want to schedule that now so that it's in people's calendars? Or do you want to wait and see how that goes on the 9th?
I'll definitely take the committee's thoughts on this. My hesitance to do that is not knowing whether we need an additional meeting, but also the flexibility of people's calendars. It's hard to say whether that may have changed by September 9th, especially since we have things like a potential family or medical stuff. So I don't want people committing too far in ahead to be able to be there for a meeting. So let's revisit that on the 9th, but I'll definitely keep it in the back of my head. Anything else? Yes.
So just so I can wrap my head around this, we have first the procedural issue. Is that the first thing that will be addressed at the next meeting?
That is we'll certainly release an agenda for the September 9th meeting, but I think that that's something we will address at the beginning of the meeting.
And then a question for Clerk Hunt, procedural motions in here, is it, do you need a majority vote? Is that how the procedural motions work?
In the absence of something else saying a more specific number, every vote would be majority, minority.
Representative Collmore.
Thank you. Along that same vein, when we have procedural votes, whether in the House or in committee, if you don't get a majority vote, so 50-50 split kind of thing happens, does that mean it doesn't pass, just like if we were in committee and?
The ethics committee is specifically designed to be even,
Mhm.
just for that purpose.
Okay, so it would not pass if it was 4 against 4.
Unless it was an ultimate recommendation, and then you could have competing measures, if you will, different recommendations from the committee. Because as important as committee work is, it is just a recommendation to the full chamber.
Thank you. And then if we get to that point, I should say, because maybe the recommendation is no recommendation at all. we've seen in the letter that the speaker has said he would call us back in, but if my recollection is correct, he himself cannot do that. We would have to have either agreement or the governor would have to call us back. Is that correct?
That is unknown. This is not a legislative session, and so there's another part of the Constitution that would sort of similarly be similar to this. There are certain powers invested in each chamber. And one of them is the power to impeach. Should the Senate have a say of whether the House can convene itself for the power of impeachment, which is stated in the Constitution, but which it would be outside the purview of, say, a legislative session where either the members needed to be polled or the governor would need to call you in. So I think that is unknown. That's my best answer for you.
And I think that's sort of in the document that I was asking for the host of options that we have for recommendations. I think that's information that would be useful for us to have.
I will do my best.
Thank you. Yes, Representative Nutting.
Thank you. Go back to the majority minority thing. And if in the event that we don't, all 8 of us agree, will it be treated like a policy committee where there is a minority and a majority? Or are we talking about on votes requiring a majority? Is that the majority of all 8 of us or the majority of the people who are here?
So I
Those are my
think,
two
yeah,
questions.
I think on procedural votes, what you're going to say is that those are the members that are here.
Correct.
On the ultimate recommendations that this committee is making, it is similar to a policy committee where let's say there's 5 of us who agree on one disciplinary measure and 2 who agree on another and 1 who agrees on another. I would say that we would have the option to send those 3 recommendations with the number of individuals who voted for them to the House.
To the House?
Yeah. Representative Collmore?
Thank you. I have a follow-up question to the impeachment part that you were referencing. Impeachment, does that not require a trial before we are called back in or something?
The House impeaches, the Senate tries.
So the Senate would have to agree to do their part, or we can get called in to vote? And what is the required vote in order to do an impeachment? Is it a 2/3?
I believe it's a simple majority, but I've never gone through an impeachment, so I don't know. But I would do my homework ahead of time. So, but it's one of those things that the House is its own body, the Senate is its own body. Even the House impeaches, the Senate never has to take it up. But the Senate can infringe on the power of the House. So under those scenarios, we're asking whether the House and Senate need to reconvene themselves in order for the House to impeach somebody. In theory, that's the Senate telling the House they can't do something, which is inherent in the House, is that they can impeach somebody. Sort of like in the Constitution where it says the House may discipline its own members. The Senate may discipline its own members.
Which is why perhaps impeachment may not be a preferable mechanism for this committee to recommend. Representative Hassan.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. I was just gonna say, we're talking about impeachment, but that involves other branches of government. So this is just the House branch, right? So we're not dealing with any members of the Senate or any members of the executive or anything like that. So you're offering impeachment as a constitutional guide because it's silent on how the House must handle its own actions, other than saying it can handle its own actions. Is that sort of what I'm?
Yeah, I guess what I'm pointing out is the sort of ambiguity of the Constitution that says in order to convene, you need to have a majority of each political party having first been polled, but that's House and Senate political parties, or the governor calls you in. That's a joint decision of whether the legislature reconvenes, not a House decision on how it disciplines its members.
Yep.
And so, but because there is no sort of precedent with that, to answer your question, it is unknown. But ultimately, the courts would decide.
anything else from anybody, or can I take a motion to adjourn?
I'm sorry, I'm processing what he just said.
Yep.
Okay, I have a.
Yep, Representative Collmore.
So I guess what I would also ask along those lines, because we are in unprecedented times with all of this, is in addition to the list of potential things that we could recommend to the House, should the House be legally allowed to even reconvene, what percentage of the body would be needed in order for that recommendation to pass? So like you said, impeachment might be 50%, or 50, a basic simple majority. If we are doing expulsion, I believe I've seen it's 2/3. If it's a censure, I think that one's basic. Simple majority, just so that I understand when we're looking at those potential recommendations, how much of the body is needed in order for that recommendation to even be accepted.
Boy, I love these questions. Most people think of the Constitution as telling you what you can do, but the Constitution really tells you what you can't do. So in the Constitution, it's only names one punishment that needs 2/3 votes, and that's to expel a member. Everything else would just be simple majority. Otherwise, the Constitution would have said any punishment needs a 2/3 vote. But it does not say that. It says expelling members a 2/3 vote, which means anything else that you come up with, and you want a list of options, really the options are up to you, up to expulsion. Now, that being said, you can't put somebody in jail. We don't have a jail down in the basement. Can't do that, right? But you're looking at, reprimand, apology, fines, or expulsion. And not to let the cat out of the bag, but that's your list of options. I can put it on a list if you want still, but that's essentially what you can do. And that's it. So that answers your questions, hopefully. But so simple majority except for expulsion.
Representative Nutty?
Thank you. So briefly, if, let me expound just a second, that basically the procedure here is we're going to determine whether or not this committee is empowered to meet. If it is, then we're going to have a vote at some point about what to do or what not to do. And if some people suggest that we should do something, they're going to make that suggestion to the House.
Absolutely.
And then the House and the Speaker of the House get to figure out what happens next.
Yep.
That's not our problem.
Yep. Our purview is what do we want to recommend to the House? All right.
Do you mind if I just go over?
Yes,
your
absolutely.
List of requests?
Yes.
Just to make sure we get it thoroughly.
Perfect.
All right. So for additional documents, we have any cases before the Ethics Commission revolving around guilty or fines revolving around clean election laws. And stop me, and subsequent House or Senate action on those. There you go. From the law library, mostly you just want ethics actions of the House. I think that somewhere from over here. So,
Yeah.
okay. And then you wanted the list of disciplinary options, which I kind of just gave you, but I can write 4 bullet points. Okay, great. In terms of witnesses, now we're on to Ethics Commission, the investigator, the director, and a clean elections expert. That sound about right? Next, Representative Hall and his attorney will be invited as well. Number 3, the AG prosecutor, you'd like to have invited as well. And number 4, if there was a mediator that was involved with the case, have them invited.
And then,
Yep.
and then reserving the right for Representative Hall and his attorney to also provide a list.
Yes.
Yeah. So
But that will be communicated through Chair Lee.
Yep.
Hopefully they can be move quickly about that because I do need to formally invite them.
yes.
And I would hate to not give them time.
So I plan to make a phone call today to Representative Hall's attorney and ask if there's any witness list that he has. I will also separately email both Representative Hall and his attorney asking for that today. It occurs to me that this is something that I saw in a prior meeting of the Ethics Committee that is not something that I think we need to do, but is something that they did. So I think we should do it, which is to have a motion to permit Representative Hall, if he so chooses, to be represented by counsel here. And so I take that motion should someone wish to make it.
I would like to make the motion as you stated.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Motion by Representative Collmore and a second by Representative Stover. All those in favor, please indicate with your hand. And no one opposed, unanimous. Thank you. And so I will now take that other motion, the motion to adjourn.
Oh, I had one.
Oh, yes, Representative Collmore.
Sorry,
She
my,
just doesn't want to leave.
well, no, my brain just never, ever stops. I don't sleep. Do we need a motion to be able to continue to meet?
I think the next motion will be adjourned to another date.
Okay, so that would be giving the authority that we were going to continue to meet, because the letter just says the authority to meet. It didn't indicate, so I just wanted to clarify.
So for purposes of that, I think the motion to adjourn should be a motion to adjourn until September 9th at 9 a.m.
I would like to make a motion that we adjourn until September 9th at 9 a.m.
And I have a second from Representative Nutting. All those in favor? None opposed. We are adjourned. Thank you.